Well, it's nice to be with you for another evening to share with you a few things, the Word of God and His presence. Once more, I feel like thanking you for giving us the privilege of coming down here and treating us so well. Treat us like royalty. When I think of these nice accommodations you gave us on top of the hill, you don't know what those things mean to us, how we appreciate it. And that lovely cataract to ride around in, we just felt like you've come up in the world, even though it's only temporary. You know, for many years I have so wished for a nice home of ourselves. And I said to the Lord many times that, Lord, it seems the only home I'll ever have is airport terminals and hotel lobbies. And so when a nice place comes along like this one up the hill, well, it's such a encouragement and such a blessing to us. We do appreciate your fine treatment and above all the lovely spirit of worship. You don't know what that means to us. To be away from these mechanics and just be where folk love to worship the Lord in the Spirit. It reminds me of the earlier days of Pentecost. And we were thrilled to be with you, so the Lord bless you. Real good. Now then, I have a little menu prepared for you that I felt the Lord impressing me with. This is going to take us a little bit into the, how shall I put that, into the way, into the things about which I have been talking to you. How to get there. That how does the Lord lead us into these areas? We need that, of course. So I'm going to read to you first of all from the book of Revelation. Now, whenever I heard this passage used for a text, it had always been for salvation. But one day, years ago now, I sat before the Lord one night. He drew my attention to this passage, and I began to see something altogether different from an evangelistic message. Not that the evangelistic messages are wrong, not at all, but that there is another message on a much higher level, actually a message not for sinners, but for the people of God. Revelation 3, 20 to 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. This is a message for the churches, for the people of God. Now what I'm going to do, I simply meander bit by bit down through this particular passage, leisurely, just Oh, have you ever seen a cow? Okay, what a question. Foolish question. But you've seen a cow out in the meadow and seen them pick up some green grass, you know. Then they stand there and look around a bit. They see something good over here. They'll go over there. Stand there, find something else up there, walk toward it, pick that up. That's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to be cows. Oh, don't be insulted, no. But just to pick up some things from God's meadow, okay? Now, first of all, behold, I stand at the door and knock. Now, we are dealing here, as I indicated, with the way of the Lord's approach to lead us into a real feast with Him. I stand at the door and knock. Now, this simply means, in one word, attention. Now, if I come to your house, I don't simply walk in, open the door, walk in, say, hi, where's the refrigerator? I have more upbringing than that. First of all, you knock at the door. Now, I know we're in a modern country, the Lord wasn't. I suppose if this were written today, it would say, behold, I stand at the door and ring the bell. Or push the button, or, well, ring the bell, I guess that would be it. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Attention. Now, there are times when the Lord, in His working with us, first of all, seeks to attract our attention. This is quite important. We are dealing here with the way the Lord is approaching us and leading us into a real feast, a real experience with Him. Fellowship, communion, revelation, whatever He has in store. Now, how does the Lord knock? The Lord knocks in a number of different ways. I do not presume to know all of them. I only can suggest some. Now, this again brings us into this present. Now, I have to share it with you through the channel of my experience. That's my ministry. I hope you can put up with it. It's not that I'm talking about myself at all. It is simply the instrumentality which God has given me to make the truth plain and real to His people. I might travel somewhere. Let's say I'm on a trans-Pacific flight. Now, for you, that could be on the train, or you do some flying to approach, or you're going anywhere in your place in the car, what have you. All right, say I sit on a plane crossing the Pacific. I might be reading something, or doing nothing in particular and think. Once in a while we need to think. It's one thing I have against these airlines. You're hardly out of Los Angeles, have dinner, and now we're having a 2-hour movie. Everybody put down the blinds. So now you're a captive audience, but most people like to be entertained. I want to think. These long flights are my opportunity to think. Think over some problems, evaluations, get away from my work and see things in perspective. And It's the opportunity for communing with the Lord. Golden opportunity. So I don't watch those things usually. They're nothing anyhow much to watch. And I have a golden opportunity. You know, I was down in Australia, well, repeatedly, but I'm referring to one. The leader there said to me, asked me whether I would come back for their camp meeting and the minister seminar during their Christmas holiday field, summer down there then. They have their camp meetings from Christmas Day to New Year's Day. Very warm down there. And he said, are you going to come? I said, well, I said, Green Lane is a long ways from Melbourne. And he said, I know what you mean. He said, you're thinking of the fair. I said, well, for a distance like that, I'd sure have to. He said, look here, if I'm asking you to come, I'm buying your ticket. I said, do you know what that costs? Well, no, he says, but I have an idea. Do you know? I said, yes, it'll cost $1,400. He said, that's all right. Ooh. He said, I'll put you on a flight, and he said, I am bringing a man from Springfield, the headquarters of the AG, you know. And so he said, I'll bring him over too for the evangelistic services. I said, Brother Greenwood, I have one request to make. Don't put me on the same flight with a man from Springfield. Nothing against Springfield, but he was the general secretary, a big man in the assemblies, believe you me, with a voice. I had nothing against him. So I said to Brother Greenwood, do you know what I mean? He said, well, from your teaching this week, I think I do. You would like to spend the time with the Lord. I said, that's it exactly. You have a man along. Now, that's not true of all, but I think it's true of most. There is so much talk, so much conversation. I figure if a people pay $1,400 for 1 week of ministry, that's all I could do. Go back Christmas time, come back after New Year. When they pay $1,400 for a week for a ticket, and then put a few $100s in your pocket for the trouble of coming down, they want something. And to be able, at least they're entitled to something, and to be able to give them something from the heart of God, I need time. Not for hours of talking, but for hours of communion and waiting. Now then, on a flight like that, this is what I experienced. I may read a while, read a digest or anything. I'll just sit there, look out, or you don't see anything, not that high up. And I get a song, I get a chorus. Listen, watch this. The Lord will often direct you through a chorus. Not something you think up, but suddenly do you discover something is singing in your spirit. And the thing I get many times is, when he calls me, I will answer. And you know that chorus? When he calls me, I will answer. That's the signal. You know what he's doing? Nothing. And it means to me, Beuttler, be ready. Be ready to respond when I call for you. That's what it means to me. That's how he works with me. And then I try not to make sure I don't get involved in anything, preoccupied, I should say. If I have a passenger next to me, some passengers like to talk about nothing, I don't. And if they strike up a conversation, I get quite unresponsive because I've had the signal. And it won't be very long. Here is a presence. It turns into intercession. And I just sit there, put my chair way back as far as I can. And now there may come quite a length of time of worship, communion, intercession. that likely has a bearing on the meetings to come. This is very important, how little it may seem. I went from New York to Dakar, that's West Africa, of course, on a Pan Am overnight flight, and when supper time came, there was a lady there at the other side. She signaled to me to have supper with her. And I was sitting over here by the window. There weren't many passengers on the flight. Well, it's a long flight over there, and I would not have minded going over there and have supper. But I thought to myself, wait a minute. Just a while ago, I had something. When he calls, I will answer. So I thought, no. And I just didn't understand what she meant. You understand what I mean? A little later, she had another gentleman. They were over there, had supper together, talking all the evening. That could have been me. I was not quite finished with my supper when there was a presence that gradually turned into some form of light intercession and worship combined. And I was so glad. If I had gotten that over here, how can you say, excuse me, lady, I got to go over there, time to pray. That would be awkward. And I find the Lord knocks in that way. Again, he knocks through a check or often a slight presence that steals over you. Then you tend to get quiet. The wife would say, many a time she said, why are you so quiet? I say, oh, I have something working on me. She knows right away what I mean. Now, I'm not a great talker anyway, but time and again, you get a little something in your spirit that lets you know it's time to draw aside, at least in your own spirit, and give yourself to concentration, meditation, contemplation to the Master. He speaks through conviction. He speaks through alarm. Strange. I mean, he knocks to arrest our attention. I was going someplace one year and had planned a stop in Baghdad. I thought I'll make Baghdad a rest stop, and while I'm in the neighborhood, I'll take a bus down to the ancient city of Babylon and poke around. And I woke up in the morning with a presence, and that presence had what shall I call it now? There was something alarming about that presence. Something, as though something was wrong somewhere. And I sat up in bed, had this alarming, yes, quiet voices, uneasy, something in my spirit. I said to the Lord, Lord, what's wrong? And before me stood the word Baghdad. He never explained, but I knew at once I had to cut Baghdad out from my itinerary. I don't know to this day why. It could be that the risks were too great or something could have happened. Anyhow, it was one of those signals. Have you ever been with people for dinner or something, or just be there, and all of a sudden you get a little something in here, and you know the Lord wants your attention. And then you look for an opportunity where you can be excused, more or less, and throw aside. I was with some very rich people when I was teaching at a camp meeting. They wanted the honor of Brother Beuttler's presence. And they put on a table the silver, the dishes, the food, the whole thing. It was super deluxe. And they were so happy to have Brother Beuttler. They were elderly. We had soup, and the gentleman, he cut his meat so is such decorum, such decorum, propriety. It was just. And as he cut the meat, I got something in here from the Spirit. You guessed it. And I knew what the signal meant. It was his nothing, equivalent. I knew what it meant. You see, you learn that. But learning these things take time. You don't learn overnight. If you go to a school and study to be a doctor, you don't go there today and tomorrow you have graduation. These things take time. And growth. This is a gradual schooling of the Spirit and takes sometimes a long time to develop before you're sure of yourself. That's it. I knew what it meant. It meant, I want you upstairs in your room. And I said, Lord, look at my predicament. And I said to myself, I said, Beuttler, are you going to obey or aren't you? And I said, will you, friends, please excuse me? The Lord has just spoken to my heart. He wants me up in my room. They looked at me, and I knew it made no difference what they said. Oh, you know that's hard. Oh, and folks, this thing will kill you and cost you some friends. The obedience that God demands can turn a friend into an enemy for lack of understanding. And I had to go out. I didn't wait for yes, Brother Beuttler. I knew I had to go irrespective, so I got up right away. I guess they consented, but I was. And the Lord detained me, and detained me, and detained me, and later gave me something for the meeting fair. By the time I was done up there and came down, the supper was finished. The table was cleared. Those good people were cool, distant. They never had me again. I don't blame them. You don't want a character like that. But I am getting at there is the signal. You know, sometimes the Lord puts your obedience to the test. Oh, when you say, but what will people think? I'll be misunderstood. Of course you will. But being misunderstood is part of the price tag. And being ununderstood, I feel that more than being misunderstood. I feel being ununderstood more. People think you are a queer duck of sometimes. But hey, you look in the Bible, the obedience that these people had to execute. Someday when we get to heaven and you see me talk to an old man, chances are it's Elijah. Well, I want to talk to Moses too, but Elijah also. I was in France ministering. At the end of a service, an old woman, she could have been in the 90s, bent over with a cane. She came up. I was great seeing her. She kept coming for me. She came up and put a French coin into my hand. She said, dear brother, you have helped me so much. I want to do something for you. This is all I can do. Please take it. And you think, well, you wanted to heal enough to take it. Yes, I would. I have to do it. I had to do it. And I took it. That thing burned in my hand. I took it. Not that I wanted it. Didn't even need it. That made no difference to me. Maybe 10 cents worth. when you're in trouble, that isn't it?
I had to take it. Because the Lord had taught me long ago, I will command the ravens to sustain thee. And the ravens are God's ordinary nobodies. You wonder how that ties in with Elijah. God said to Elijah, I have commanded a widow woman to sustain thee. The Lord gave me that scripture also. You'd be surprised how he worked that one out. I can't forget. And that Elijah said to that woman, what do you have there? Oh, she said, I have a little meal, a little flour. And what you're going to do? I'm going to make a pancake for my boy and for me, and then we're going to die. We're going to starve to death. And Elijah said, make me a cake first. I want to ask Elijah, how did you feel when you asked that poor widow woman and her boy to give you their last bit, and you were mean enough to take it? How do you feel? Now, mean enough, that puts in the side of the people. We had to. What an obedience! But of course, God took care of the woman. And if I had refused that old woman, I would have deprived her of one of her greatest blessings from God. But it took a humiliating experience. I had American Express dollar checks in my pocket, a whole pack of them, of course, and all this time. And here, oh, what God asks you. Your obedience will kill you, and then he'll raise you up. If you can understand my language. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. He knocks with conviction. He knocks through his word. He has been knocking while we have been here through his word, drawing your attention to things. He knocks in here by his Spirit, by a drawing, by a constraint, by a sudden awareness of his presence. It alerts me often. And by a song in here, there are other things. Now, you may write somewhere or sit in a restaurant or something. Suddenly you get a presence in here, and the presence feels like you just want to go alone somewhere. Well, that presence is the knocking and indicating I'd like to meet with you, so you go somewhere where you two can meet. Well, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man, get this, if any man, now that doesn't mean men as such, but it means any person. Now, you ladies are not excluded. I was down in Australia a couple of years ago, and they were using a scripture in 1 Corinthians 14 where it says, the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man. So they thought that excludes the women. Only men can have the messages in tongues, interpretation, prophesying. They had that at the Bible College in Brisbane. And so the men did the speaking in tongues, and the ladies, they couldn't, because it says given to every man, so the woman is excluded. But that doesn't mean that. It means to every person, to everyone. Of course, children of God. I came along, upset the apple cart for them. And what those girls, one brown-eyed Susie sat right there, and she kept sitting all week long like this. I don't think I'll forget her for a long time. And you know what? At the end of the week, of all things, the Lord gave her an utterance in tongues. Wife interpreted. And at the end, she came up. I thought she was going to hug me. Brother, you my mom, it's so wonderful, I gave a message in tongues. Ah, poor God. Oh, blessed God. So we're dealing here with, not with men as such, but you ladies are included too. Well, you better be, we need you. Don't we, men? Well, we do. How quiet they are over there. If any man, hey, do you see something here? In one word, this means opportunity. Opportunity. God gives the opportunity to anyone. If any man, the only condition being if any man hears and responds, I'll get to that. But basically, the opportunity for a joyous visitation from the Lord, a feast with the Lord, a new light in the truth, is, as far as God is concerned, open to everyone. Not everyone responds, but that's their business. As far as God is concerned, the table is spread for everybody. Whether they follow and come in response to the invitation, that is another matter, but as far as He is concerned, the very things of which I have spoken to you, in principle, are open to all. Now, the Lord would do things for you in a different way because you're in a different situation. If I need a meeting, I need certain equipment, but basically the Lord will in some way, remember what we heard? I will manifest myself to Him. I will reveal myself to Him. I will make myself known to Him. I will show myself to Him. I will plainly show myself to Him. How He does that depends on our personality, I think, depends on His purpose for our life, depends on our capacity. I think a number of factors enter here, but the manifestation is available for all those who love the Lord and demonstrate that love by their obedience. So the thing is wide open. It's not restricted to an isolated few or even given because they are particularly holy or what have you. No, you'll be surprised what God does. Do you remember Balaam's ass? Maybe you don't. In Numbers 21, I think. Why, Balaam's ass was used by the Lord. The Lord spoke through Balaam's ass. That was the equivalent to prophecy in principle. The ass had a vision of the angel that the prophet didn't see. The Lord spoke through the ass, yet it was only an ass. So the next time the Lord uses you in tongues and interpretation, don't feel like you're a great somebody. Think of Balaam's ass. That'll take the wind out of us. Well, the Lord used me. Hallelujah, the Lord will use me. I must be an ass. So there is no room here for self-congratulation on basis of being used. There is lots of room for being grateful to the Lord for condescending to use any one of us. And if you ever think that you are such a wonder because God is using you, remember the wonder is that He has anything to do with any one of us. That's the wonder. And if you ever get proud for being used in prophesying, think of Balaam's ass. He prophesied. Is that a he or a she? Or that ass prophesied too. So there's no room for self-congratulations. Is he all right? All right. Remember John 14:21, and there, together with this, you have the fact that this thing is wide open. So if any man what? Hear, if any man hear. Now we have attention, opportunity, now we have perception. Some people are deaf. Somebody can knock at the door, and the deaf person on the inside doesn't hear and consequently does not respond. And not everybody has an ear, that is to say, has the spiritual faculty of perception to recognize the Lord's knocking. Now, that reception, that faculty can be developed by teaching, by feeding on the Word, by fellowship with Him, by prayer. Here, I'm going to take you to Solomon. I feel so sorry for Solomon. Whenever I mention him, I could get melancholy over this man. He had such great privileges. I believe that Solomon reached a higher place, a higher level of intimate communion with God than any other man recorded in the Bible, including his father David. And I gather that from the Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon reveals a very high degree of intimacy between Solomon and God. And yet when you look at his record in the Bible, we don't know whether Solomon was eventually saved or lost. We don't know because the man slipped badly. In one of the cities in Italy, there is a painting of Solomon. I've never seen it, but I would like to see it sometime. I just don't get to Italy much anymore. I never have much, but hardly get there at all, but the plane stopped, you know. There is a painting there, I understand, that shows Solomon coming up in the resurrection. God is on his throne. There is a group to the right and a group to the left of God. The lost and the saved, the damned and the not damned. And they say that as Solomon comes up from the grave, there is an expression on his face that shows that Solomon did not know whether he belonged to the left or to the right of the judge of all the earth. He was not sure of his standing. That's precisely the way the Bible leads us. We don't know whether Solomon ever made eternal life. There's one scripture that gives us a little bit of a hope, where it says, where God said to David, "My mercy shall not depart from him." I'm hoping that in the light of that, he did make it. But here is the man at the zenith of his fellowship with God. 1 Kings 3. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night. I had a similar experience, but for a different purpose. And God said, "Ask what I shall give thee." Think of it. God saying to a mortal, "Ask what I shall give thee." What if God would say to you and me, "Ask what I shall give thee"? What would you answer? our answer would be truly symptomatic of our true spiritual state. If you can imagine what you would say to God, that would perhaps more than anything else show you where you stand. Now, Solomon didn't ask for a long life. He didn't ask for riches. I know I was once at the place when I said to God, because God had been very angry with me and took His Spirit from me for 3 days. It's too long a story to use tonight, although it would be very informative. And thereafter, very severe discipline. The Lord said to me, ask what I shall give thee. And I said, oh God, there is only one thing that I would ask. Give me back your Spirit. I was just going to say something, but you could misunderstand it, and I don't want to take the chance. So God said to this man, ask what I shall give thee. And you know what he said in the context there. Give thou thy servant a hearing ear. Now he's put it this way in the Bible here. Give thou thy servant an understanding heart. And in the Hebrew, the idea there is, give thou thy servant a hearing heart. You see, there are two kinds of faculties of hearing. There is the natural faculty, such as you hearing my voice, but there is also an inner spiritual faculty of hearing. God is a spirit, and Psalm 94 verse 9 says, he that planted the ear, shall he not hear? He that formed the eye, or something like that, shall he not see? God has no physical faculty of hearing. He has a spiritual faculty of hearing. We do too. We have two faculties. These things are double. There's the physical, there's the spiritual counterpart. And here what we have is the hearing of the inner ear. That's why Jesus said, he that has an ear to hear, let him hear. Well, they all heard what he said. They all had ears. But there's another hearing. And here in this text we read, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. That is an appeal to the inner hearing of the heart. With the heart man believeth unto righteousness. So Solomon says, give thou thy servant a hearing heart. I have prayed that many times. A hearing heart. Many times before I've gone to bed, give thou thy servant a hearing heart. What I mean is, help me to discern when you knock by night, so I know it's you. Help me to discern the meaning of that text, of that presence. Help me to recognize you when you approach. Give me a hearing ear. And you can well pray that many times, oh Father, give me a hearing ear. When the Spirit sinks in here to lead me, enable me to recognize it, or whatever approach the Lord will make. So here we have the need of hearing. If any man hear, all have the opportunity as far as God is concerned, but not all who have the opportunity hear with their heart. They hear words. They don't comprehend them. There is not that inner spiritual perception in this matter. If any man hear my voice, this is recognition. There are many not recognize the voice of the caller. Like I told you, I think this morning a lady said to me, now I know. I thought I just heard something, now I know it was the Lord. Often I've been asked, how can I learn the recognition of the voice of the Lord? Well, really I don't know. Except I know this, that in the final analysis, as far as I'm concerned, this recognition of the voice of the Lord gets cultivated through fellowship and experience. Now you take Samuel. Samuel had laid himself down to sleep in 1 Samuel. The Lord came and called Samuel, Samuel. Samuel ran to Eli. Oh, Eli said, I didn't call it. What's the matter with you? Go back to sleep, you kid. I went back. The Lord called again. I ran to Eli. He called me. No, I didn't. Go back again. He went back. That happened 3 times. Finally, he came again to Eli. Eli said, oh, that's the Lord. Now you have this statement there, that the voice, well, it says in our translation, that the word of the Lord was not yet revealed unto Samuel. And the Hebrew reads, and the voice of the Lord was not yet revealed unto Samuel. So there is such a thing as the revelation of the recognition of the voice of the Lord through experience. The Spirit of God working, helping us in experience to learn. But there's another way, and that is fellowship, communion. In John 10, Jesus speaks about the Sabbath. Would you folk like to come in and sit down? You don't disturb, you just come along, make yourself comfortable. They don't have to stand there, do they? No, just sit down and be good, that's all. In John 10, Jesus says, as we have it in a song, my sheep know my voice. He doesn't put it that way, the song does, but that's the idea. Jesus there said, in effect, my sheep know my voice, but a stranger they do not follow because they do not know his voice. How do the sheep learn to know the voice of the shepherd? What university do they attend that teaches the sheep the recognition of the shepherd's voice? Why, the only thing I can know here is that the sheep learn to know his voice because they are so much with the shepherd that they just learn to identify the voice with that shepherd, so that if they were blindfolded, they would still follow that voice because they know it, shall I say, through association. And the best way that I know to recognize his leading, his moving, his doing, his voice is association. Waiting in his presence, waiting on the Lord, and as we gain in experience and we grow in the knowledge of the Lord, more and more till we recognize this is the Lord. Association, fellowship. Take a little baby. Mother has her baby, wants to show it off. It can be as homely as 2 totes, but to her it's the prettiest baby you've ever seen. And you better agree. And a relative comes along and says, let me hold this little thing, and the relative takes it. Come on, take it. Oh, let me have it. Who on earth told that baby about its mother? Association. You don't take a baby and say, now you 24-hour-old here begins the voice. Listen up the recognition of your mom. Number 1. It doesn't come that way. Association. Fellowship. Now look here, I've been with you. After this, you could be blindfolded, and if I were to say something, you'd say, we know who that is. That's him, that's Brother Beuttler. We know him. How do you know? Well, we've been with him in a retreat. All right. Now, prior to my coming, if anybody had explained to you the sound of my voice, you could not recognize that from an explanation. I couldn't recognize you. Who is going to describe your voice to me, Brother Bob, so that I can recognize you without ever having known you? There is no description. You've got to hear it and make the association, the identification. There it is. And so my answer here is, somebody else might give you a better one. If they do, be sure and tell me. I know nothing like, nothing better than association, fellowship, communion. Drawing nigh, sitting in His presence. Then He gives us some experiences, and you learn, this is Him. You get some teaching that helps along. And as you grow year after year, more and more can you be sure of the recognition of His voice. That's the best that I know on this. Now here we could go into area of divine guidance, but that would take us astray. Let's come back to, where did we start in Revelation, didn't we? Yeah. Wait a minute, this isn't right. If any man hear my voice, oh yes, and open the door. Ah, that's it. Open the door. Here is where we fail. Response. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Attention. If any man, opportunity. Hear, perception. My voice, recognition. Open the door, response. In one word, you have this capsule here. That's better than one of these pills they take, pep pills, what have you. This is a real pep pill. You know what I mean. Response and open the door. But here is where we fail in the response. Years ago, long ago now, well, I used to be of that type of person, late to bed, late to rise. I could go to bed 1 or 2 o'clock, but don't you bother me in the morning. And the Lord dealt with me about that and let me know that He wanted me to switch this thing around. This is my way of putting it. I felt the Lord wanted me to be up early, and to be up early I had to be in early. Good. And I was the other way, because the Lord let me know, and I found it in the Word, that in the Word there is a premium on the early morning hour in relationship to God. And you go through history of men and women who left a mark upon God's people long after their death, were men and women who knew what it was to be up early with God. The prophets of old rose early and was sent. And the Lord impressed me, He must have the early morning hour with me. And that, of course, compelled a change. But, oh, what a job. I couldn't do it. I set the alarm at 6 o'clock, and I thought 6 o'clock was early. Now 6 o'clock is late. Oh, brother, 6 o'clock, you can start your day at 6. You don't get anywhere. Well, I do sometimes, but it's not the mode of life. So I set the alarm. Of course, the thing rang 6 o'clock. Well, you know, push the button, shut. Turn over, go back to sleep. That's President Nixon. Tell him not this time. I need a little humor, folks, as I hope you can digest it. So I got nowhere with the alarm clock. In fact, so often I ignored it that finally I didn't hear it anymore. So I said, Lord, this will never do. You have to step in on the case. And that was the case. But he took it on. I prayed before going to bed, Father, tomorrow morning, please, you wake me up at 6. I won't even set the alarm. It doesn't work. The alarm worked, but I didn't work. You wake me up at 6. And believe it or not, I was awakened out of a deep sleep by a blue jay. Now, a blue jay doesn't sing. What does a blue jay do? Well, he makes a racket. You know, those fellas, maybe you don't even know them. Can they set up a racket, a noise? They don't sing, they scream or something. Right outside my window, I got so angry. I walked around my room looking for something, almost was going to take a new piece of soap and throw it at him, but I thought that will never do. Couldn't find anything. He kept yelling away out there, and I looked at my clock, 6 o'clock. Oh, would you like to know? Would you like to know what I did? I went back to bed for another snooze. That night I apologized to the Lord. I said, forgive me, please. Wake me up again tomorrow morning at 6. I'll be up. I was awake. I stayed with some very old people, the quietest, nicest people you'd ever meet. And would you believe it? I was awakened by an argument between the two. Right outside my door, they let each other have it. And I thought, I'm going to leave. I rented a room. That's no way to treat people. I'm getting another room. The big idea. I looked at my clock. 6. Now, please, the next time you have an argument to start on, don't say, well, the Lord makes me argue. He used to argue with the business. Don't take advantage of that now. 6. Would you like to know what I did? Went back to sleep. That night, I went to the Lord before going to bed. Asked His forgiveness. Asked Him to wake me up 6 o'clock. I was awakened by an automobile crash. Now, don't ask me just how that is. I can only relate what happened. I couldn't see the cars. I heard the smash. It woke me up all right. I looked out, and the wooden spokes of some of the wheels were lying in front of the house. The corner was right beyond the other house. I couldn't see the spokes were lying out there. They had wooden spokes. Stretched my neck, couldn't see, looked at the clock, 6 o'clock. Would you like to know what I did? Went back to bed. You say, you? Right, you are. That's what God's got to put up with us, some of us. I apologized that night. I said, Lord, I'm ashamed. I'm not even going to ask you to wake me up at 6. I'm going to ask you to make me get up and stay up. I was awakened with such a stomachache. And I hit the bathroom. And by the time I got back, I was awake all right. 6 o'clock. That did it. And from that time on, I was free. But it was a battle. And now, I'm in early, can't always do it, but try to, and up with the Lord. It's a case of responding. Now, this brings me to the morning hours. I must admit this, folks. Over the years, there has been many a time when the Lord has awakened me. And I knew it. And I just, I'm just too tired, too sleepy. Turned around, went back to sleep. Many, not always, by any means. And not even in majority of cases, but many times. Here is the danger, that we fail to respond. He wakes you by night, 3 o'clock. Here's one of these night things, 3 o'clock. Oh, brother. 3 o'clock. Lord. But that's how we miss. Say, this thing is a hard life. Don't you think it's a picnic? I told you the spiritual life is a hard life. It requires discipline, obedience. I mean self-discipline. Right. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I was at the camp meeting teaching. Wife was with me that year. And she's no fool. I knew the waitress because I'd been there several years. She knew me. And I said to her, I want some hot cakes. But I want them golden yellow. Don't want them burnt. I just like them nice and yellow. Like a sunflower. All right, I'll do my best. And 3 extra slices of butter. Okay. She said, I'll make them myself for you, the pancakes. She wouldn't let the cook make them. Well, they know when they get a tip, too. But even so, she made the pancakes. For them, they looked delicious. I shoved 6 slices of butter in. A fool will do that, But it takes you a lifetime to know how to live, and by then it's too late. I wouldn't use 6 slices a day. I don't even use the 3 usually. Put in the 6 slices. She said to me, well, how do you like them? Oh, I said, fine. For the, what do you call this thing, gravy or something over them? Syrup. Oh, brother, I was ready to go to work. Had fork, knife, and looked at them. You know why? Just as I was going to cut in, check. I got a check from the Lord, and I knew what it meant. I argued. I said, Lord, you're too late. And I said, if you only had given me that signal before I placed my order. But now here they are, and I said, Lord, this waitress even made them for me herself. What will she think if I let them sit? So I was arguing like that on my inside, word for word, but the argument was a bit longer. I said, and I looked, shall I not? Shall I not? I was under inner compulsion. 2 compulsions. And wife at the cross. He said to me, say, you're not supposed to eat this morning, are you? I said, no. Well, then why do you look at those pancakes like that? Well, I said, I guess I shouldn't. I said, I'll better go to the room. You pay for them, and I'll go and pray. The Lord wanted me in fasting and prayer. The restaurant didn't accept payment. And I don't know what that blue-eyed waitress thought. I say blue-eyed because her eyes were so conspicuously blue. Never seen such blue-eyed. I don't know what she thought. But whatever she thought, you have to consider what will God think. if we are more interested in what people think than in what he thinks. This thing is costly. This response, folks, is not easy, and sometimes it is very, very difficult, because what people will think, oh, people, we have to learn in this thing to press past the people's opinions. Yes, we do. I do. Go right past it. There they wonder what's the matter with you. But the same happened with the prophet. God said to a prophet, now you go there, and I don't want you to eat and drink anywhere. Don't go in anybody's house. And he was invited, oh, come, have something to eat, have something to drink, refresh thyself. Nope. Oh, come on anyhow. Nope. This thing is not easy. You have to say no to people. No to their opinions. Ignore their attitude. Not easy. This is an expensive thing. No wonder the Lord says, if any man hear my voice and open the door, if we respond. Have you ever been washing dishes, ladies? And there you were washing away. All of a sudden you get a signal. You know what it means. It's time to pray. And what do you say? Oh. Oh, I'm going to hurry up. I'll finish them. I can't let the water get cold and the suds all died out. I'll go quick, and you get quick, and you wipe your hands, and you put them quickly away, and you walk to the mirror, and you fix your hair a little bit nicely, and then you go to your room and say, Lord, hey, Lord, where are you? Oh, he's gone. The opportunity is missed. You try to pray, everything is set, you get nowhere. Why not? Waiting too long? Not giving the Lord an immediate response. Look here. If I come to your house and knock, or ring the bell a few times, 2-3 times maybe, and you're in there dilly-dallying, you finish whatever you're doing, and by the time you get around to open the door, I'm gone. See what I mean? So it is with the Lord. There needs to be a response. There needs to be a prompt response. Take the Solomon, chapter 5. The bride's lover was coming, and he knocked at the door. She had already retired, so she said, I have taken off my coat, I have washed my tootsies, my feet, my tootsies. See, they have a dusty over there, and they wash their feet before they go to bed. Now, some people never do. I'm getting tired now, I'm getting fun. Beuttler, how do you know? Well, I do. All I have to do is sometimes walk into a classroom at the school when the windows are closed, and you know right well quite a few didn't take their regular showers. Well, she said, I've taken off my robe, I've gone to bed in a second. I've washed my tootsies. Oh, she made excuses. Didn't respond. He knocked, but she parried. Finally, she decided to get up, and lo and behold, equivalent to what shall I say, lack of resoluteness, lack of interest, preference for our convenience, what have you. We are vacillating, and the Lord has no room for vacillating people. We either are all out or we are not all out, and so when the Lord knocks and there is not an immediate response, very, very often the whole thing he had intended is missed. See what else we have here in this chapter in Revelation. I guess we'll have to call it an end soon. And I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. Now comes the communion. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Attention. If any man, opportunity, hear perception, my voice, recognition, and open the door, response. I will come in, sup with him, and he with me, communion. This is a two-way street. He communes with us, and we commune with him. There is a mutuality of sharing. Now notice, to him that overcometh, here is where we fail. This term overcoming involves conflict, such as conflict. There is something to overcome, very usually. Something to overcome. Sometimes we have to overcome our friends, our relatives. There, you see, there are conflicts of interest. And this response to the Lord brings us into conflict with other interests which we also have. And now it is a case of priority. Do we give the priority to the Lord, or do we give the priority to our other interests? Our response or failure to respond shows where our priorities lie. And the Lord will often test our sense, our order of priority. Do you remember in Mark 1 when the Lord saw Peter fishing, mending their nets? No, they were fishing. He was casting a net into the sea. And the Lord came along, and as Peter cast the net into the sea, Jesus said, "Come and follow me." What a time to ask a man to follow him. What did Peter say? "Now, Lord, have a seat. Sit down. Make yourself comfortable. I just dropped the net into the sea. I have to wait a little while for some fishes. And then I'll pull them out, and as soon as I'm fished some fishes and have counted them, I'll be with you. Just be patient." The Lord would have gone on. But Peter, it says, straightway followed the Lord. And once he left the demand of his profession, left the net in the sea, fish and all, and followed the Lord. The Lord needs unquestioning, instantaneous response. If he had said, "Wait, Lord, till I'm done with my fish," the Lord would have gone on. Now here, the Lord tested Peter's priority. His obedience had to overcome his professional interest. I used to be a pattern draftsman. Now, my father was a businessman, my grandfather was a businessman, runs in the family on both sides, and my desire was to be a businessman. After I came to the United States at the age of 21, 1925 that was. And I worked hard, had training in Germany, and got to the place where I had just opened my own drafting office in New York, the Great Bar building on the 27th floor next to Grand Central Station. And I worked with all my heart, patent drawings for the Washington, for the patent office in Washington. Worked hard. Overtime meant nothing. Did good work, conscientious work, had lots of work. I was there one Saturday afternoon. Oh, I left my pen home. Well, that's all right. Okay, fine. Thank you, sir. I could do without, but I was there. At my drawing board, all alone, at this little office there, you know. All of a sudden I heard a voice. Go down to the street and testify of me. That's the Lord. That's the Lord. I said, I'm busy. I have to do this work. This is promised by a certain time. I went down. Hardly started. The power of God came down, shook me, and literally shook the pencil out of my hand. It fell on the drawing board. There I shook under the power like I was full of electricity. I'm telling you the truth. You look astonished. What happened? Have you ever been under the power of the Spirit, any of you? No? Oh, yeah. We had that a lot in the early days of Pentecost. Well, the pencil lay there, the thing subsided. I picked up the pencil, went back to work. Am I a character? You know, it's a wonder the Lord ever put up with me. Aren't you glad you're not like me? Go down to the street and testify of me. The room, I was alone. I knew what it is. I said, really, honestly, I'm too busy. This work has to be done. The pencil, the power came down and shook the pencil literally out of my hand. I couldn't hold it anymore, like full of electricity. Then I gave up. And I went down to the street and testified to people. Now what the Lord really wanted was to get me to obey and put my work in second place. And I went down to the subway at 42nd Street. Oh, I don't know where I got the gumption. Well, I had heard. And I went into a car and stood there, all the passengers, and talked to the people about the Lord, my salvation, about the second coming of the Lord. I went from car to car testifying of the Lord's salvation. And I came to a car toward the end of the train with a big policeman standing there. I only saw him after I had started speaking. He was there at the end, a big belly he had, my what a character. And he looked at me so growling, and I had to go past him to the next car. I got scared. And I said in my heart, I said, Lord, I have to go past him. You want me to do this? Now you've got to take care of him. And I walked through the car after I had done speaking, walked right through. When I passed him, I walked like this, looked like this. He looked at me, and I went through one more car. I was finished. I went back to the office, went on with my work. In 4 weeks' time, I was in Bible school. I had to say no to my work. And I was fond of my work. And folk who knew me in the city, they thought I was doing just great. For a young fella, I did all right, I suppose, but I had to say no to that. Now, this is the conflict. You come in conflict with your work. Now, when it comes to absolute duty, that's another story. But many times, the Lord puts us to the test. We have conflicts in the social area. We love our families. Ooh. I was once engaged in a if I don't give you this pencil, I'll take it with me. I was once engaged in a week of fasting and prayer, and I heard wife and my little girl Norma, at that time she was little, outside the window. And Norma said, "Mommy, doesn't Daddy love us anymore?" And wife said, "Sure he does. What makes you think so?" "Well, he's always in there and never takes me for another walk." I'll tell you, I felt like jumping out of that window and take her for a walk, but I had to stay put. I had promised the girls a fishing trip, because I'm away every weekend. I'm out ministering somewhere. And they were small, and I said, someday we're going to go fishing. The day came. I dug for worms, only found one after 2 hours of digging. I don't know where they went. It was a dry spell, and I guess they went down to purgatory or someplace, I don't know. I'm getting tired, so I ought to quit, really. Really, I ought to quit. I'm getting foolish. Next morning, though, we were all ready. I said to Grandma, don't buy any meat for dinner. We'll be bringing fish. Don't fry the fish before you catch them. We were all set, and those girls were so happy. We had our pail and lunch and all of that. We were going to rent a little rowboat, you know. We were all set, and I got something in here. We were down in the yard, ready to go. I got a step. I knew what it meant. You go up in the attic. I want to talk to you. What it meant, not words, I just understood it. I had my bed up there and my little table, studying the life books, whatever. I said, girls, Jesus wants to talk to Daddy. I'll have to go upstairs in the attic. I'll be right back. I went up. I said, Lord, here I am. What is it? Not a word. I said, Lord, had my hands up. I said, here I am. I'm available. Not a word. After a while, little Norma called up, Daddy, when are you coming? Very soon, just a moment. Lord, I said, would you hurry up? Not a word. Said, Lord, please. It's getting late. The fish will be running only part of the morning. We need to be there at a certain time if we want to catch them. Not a word. Daddy, hurry up! Lord, said, you hear that? Would you please? What is the Father? Speak, Lord. I came down, I talked to wife a bit. So I said, girls, I'm going up again. Just a few minutes, we'll be going. Not a word. Came down, talked to wife. She said, maybe you're not supposed to go. Well, by that time, I had that suspicion, all right, but I didn't want to admit it. So she said, I'll tell you what, I'll take the girls to the beach, and you just stay here and attend to whatever. I said, finally, I persuaded myself that maybe I was mistaken, since the Lord didn't speak and do anything about it. Maybe, perhaps I was wrong. I rationalized myself, and we left. We did leave. Had gone, I would say, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And inside I knew the Lord was pulling me back to that attic, and I drove slower and slower, and wife said, why do you drive so slow? I said, the Lord wants me back at the attic. Why don't you turn around? So I told the girls, my girl Norma, looked at me with such a disillusioned look, I won't forget it, I don't think, as long as I live. She said nothing, but what a look when I said, we'll have to turn around. I went upstairs. I said, Father, I've turned around. Please speak. There still might be a chance to go. In other words, it was then wife said, I'll take the bill. So I said, all right, you go. They went. I went upstairs. Well, they were still there. I went upstairs. I said, Father, if you speak now, there is still time to go. In other words. Then I heard wife drive out. You know the old ship? And I could hear him go around the corner and down the road. I said, Father, do you hear that? Now I can't go even though I want to. And the Lord spoke 3 words. Desire spiritual gifts. I knew what he meant. He wanted me to write an article for the Pentecostal Evangel on desiring spiritual gifts. I sat down, had my paper there and pen, what have you, and I wrote. The thing came in such a steady stream. I wrote so fast, never mind spelling or grammar, punctuation. I could hardly keep up with those words. I had to write. They kept coming, and I pushed and kept writing, and I had got the thing in one whole stream. And when it was finished, it stopped. Then I had to go over it, of course, rearrange some words, take care of spelling, punctuation, what have you, and fix it up in good English. That's what he wanted. But I had to overcome my guilt. And to overcome your family in response to the Lord is one of the hardest things because of your attachment. To him that overcometh. Oh, I go overseas. I leave family behind. That's not easy. Have to do that. So it is a case of overcoming any other interests, legitimate interests, that bring us into conflict with the Lord's prior demand. He has the right to priority. And when he deals with us, we must overcome all the other interests, the other pulls, the other activities, saying no to things and what have you, in order to say yes to him. You say, well, but that's costly. That's true, but I'll tell you something, and I'll be closing presently. If you think the price of following the Lord is great, you are right. This is not for the bargain basement. What we're talking about this weekend, you don't get in the bargain store. Oh, no. There is a price tag. But I'll tell you. The price of saying yes to God is great. But the price of saying no to God is greater still. It will cost you less to say yes to God than it will ever cost you to say no. The price of saying no is greater than the price of saying yes. So then, behold, I stand at the door and knock. He has been knocking tonight through his word. That's a knocking too. Attention. If any man, opportunity, hear perception, my voice, recognition, open the door, respond. I will come into him and sup with him, and he with me. Communion. So, he or she that had an ear to hear, let them hear what the Spirit saith unto this group tonight. Lord bless you. Prosper His word in your heart. That brings me to an incident in closing that I had. I was in a place where for several days, well, Friday through Sunday, I was teaching, was not aware of any results. I was discouraged and was at the altar long after other people had left, and told the Lord that I felt that somehow I had not accomplished anything. And the Lord gave me a scripture. I use this now in closing. So is the kingdom of God as if a man should cast seed into the ground and should sleep and rise night and day, and the seed should spring and grow up, he knoweth not how. For the earth bringeth forth fruit of herself, first the blade, then the ear, after that the